My name is Mason Clark. I am a soldier in an environmental response force that ceased to exist before it was even officially established. I was trained to detect biological threats, radiation zones, and atmospheric contamination. My last report never reached HQ. I am recording this so that if anyone can still hear it, they will understand that there are places that are not on the map for a reason. We were sent to an area north of Kazakhstan, near the Russian border, where, according to satellite imagery, there was a ghost town. No name, no roads, just an urban sprawl erased from all systems. The briefing said, analyze anomalous chemical traces, check for seismic and radioactive activity, and collect geological material. I entered the city on April 3. I went in alone. I never saw my companions again.
The air there was denser. There was no smell of mold or sewage or anything. The air didn't smell. It was like breathing glass. The streets were intact. Stores with clean windows, hanging lamps, toys in rusty playgrounds, as if people had disappeared from one second to the next. But the strangest thing was the sound, or rather the absence of it. There was no wind, no leaves, not even the sound of my own footsteps. Sometimes I would step and hear nothing. Sometimes I would hear footsteps when I wasn't moving. I thought it might be some kind of atmospheric pressure effect, but my barometer was normal. Everything was technically normal, but nothing there was.
On the second day, I entered an administrative building, a kind of city hall. 5 floors, according to the external design, but inside, only 2. I climbed the stairs to the second floor and hit the top, as if the remaining floors had never existed. But from the outside, the windows were still there. I tried to break one of them to understand, but the stone bounced off as if it had hit steel. I climbed onto the side roof with a rope. The 3rd floor windows were there, but there was nothing behind them. No room, no space, just black glass. The entire city seemed to defy physics, or perhaps it obeyed a different set of physics, something we don't yet understand.
That night, I went to a larger avenue where power lines crossed the sky, but there were no poles. The wires floated in the air, perfectly aligned, as if suspended by some invisible force. I touched one. It was cold, motionless, as if it were made of something that did not conduct electricity. Or perhaps it conducted another type of energy. My recordings were corrupted, distorted audio, duplicate images. My face appeared in videos I didn't record. In one of them, I was sleeping, but I saw myself standing behind the camera, watching.
I tried to leave the city on the 3rd day. I took the road on the east side, but after 2 kilometers, I encountered a wall of wind, invisible but solid. The air vibrated. My hair stood on end. The sound inside my helmet was muffled. I started bleeding from my nose. I turned back. The city wouldn't let me leave.
In a playground, I found paper figures, children folded into origami, standing on swings and slides. When I approached, they all slowly turned toward me, as if the non-existent wind were obeying some internal command. One of them, made from an old map of the Soviet Union, had the word "Pomni" written on its chest. Remember. But remember what?
Behind the municipal theater, I discovered a half-open hatch. I climbed down with a flashlight. The shelter seemed to date from the 1960s, but it was too clean, as if it had been used until yesterday. Notebooks scattered on the floor had recent dates: 2030, 2031, my year. In them, notes about waves of geographical distortion, about collective memory transformed into landscape. One phrase was repeated on several pages: if you remember the place remembers you. I found a mirror at the end of the corridor. When I looked at myself, my uniform was different, older, like that of the Soviet soldiers in the photos I had seen before. I blinked. It went back to normal, or so I thought. The next morning, I found fresh footprints. I followed them for 3 blocks until I saw someone, a man in uniform. He had his back to me. When I approached, he turned around. It was me. Same face, same scar on my chin, same gaze, but empty. He didn't speak. He just pointed to the sky. I looked up. Nothing. When I looked down, he was gone. But on my wrist, there was now a watch that wasn't mine. Old, with the hands turning backwards. The city was giving me back pieces of myself, but jumbled, mixed up, out of order.
I entered the abandoned school out of curiosity, but the hallways seemed longer than the building allowed. There were windows, but they showed different landscapes: sea, desert, forests, battlefields. Each door I opened showed a memory that was not mine. In one room, I saw my parents, young, like in old photos. In another, a child who called me father. But I never had children. In another, the obelisk, but this time it whispered, "You are made of maps that never existed."
I climbed to the highest point in the city, the observation tower. Up there, the wind finally blew, the first wind I had felt in days. But it wasn't natural. It carried voices, all the voices I had heard in my entire life. In the center of the room was a map, only it was alive. The streets changed. My name appeared and disappeared in different places. The city was rewriting me. Then I understood. This city wasn't built. It was remembered. Remembered so many times by so many lost minds that it ended up becoming real. A monument to collective oblivion. The moment I accepted that, everything went right. And now, there's only this audio. If you're listening, it's because she let you hear it. But be careful. The next map could be yours.